What unique perspective might your avian vet have to share with you on taking care of your parrot so that you have a blissful bond? Today I am here getting ready to interview one of my avian vets, Dr. Susan Clubb, and I'm so excited to see what she says so that we can get a perspective from an expert from a different angle to help us create that blissful bond with our parrots. So here we are with one of my favorite vets. This is Dr. Susan Clubb. I instinctually know when she's out of town because my parrots start to not do well and then she can't see them. But here's Dr. Clubb, and before we begin, I'm going to present her with my holiday thank you, because she likes chocolate. She won't share it with her parrot.
Thank you.
I'm always grateful.
Thank you.
So first of all, thank you so much. One of the things that I want is for people who love their parrots, that perspective from you, because obviously you have such a different perspective, how best to help their parrot, how best to do what they need to do to really have that wonderful bond and have a great experience with their parrot. So given that, what are some of the most common mistakes that you see in your clients that people make with their parrots?
Well, one of the things that I think a lot of people don't do is go for routine vet care. And I understand that's not always available, but if it is available, don't wait until the bird's 30 years old to take it to the vet for the first time, because we see a lot of that.
Can you explain what people can expect is in that appointment kind of thing? And I'm sorry, do you want to introduce Phoenix?
This is Phoenix. He owns me.
that sounds about right.
Yeah, that's about right.
Does he let you eat your food?
Life. Oh, he eats 3 meals a day with me.
Yeah. And of course, Phoenix, like my Bonnie Rose, is a golden conure. Can you say the Latin name?
Garuba, Garuba.
Oh, that wasn't that bad. Okay.
No, that's not so bad.
No, sometimes I look at the Latin names and I just don't know how to pronounce them. So that people don't have this mystery of an appointment, they don't know what it's going to cost. I don't want them to have this nebulous unknown that they avoid because they don't know what it is.
Right, and I understand that, and different vets are going to do different things on a regular exam. There's no rules. Mm-hmm. The vet chooses what they think is important, and a lot of it depends on the species. But I like to do an annual exam, and in the annual exam we do general blood work. I do a bacterial culture of the mouth and the cloaca in order to see if there's bacterial infections, and often we can find contamination in the home this way. And I like to do a gram stain of the stool to check the gut flora, because the gut flora is the most important thing to keep them healthy. It's their first line of defense against bacteria in the environment. And probably the most common cause of illness in our pet birds is bacterial infections, and most of it's common bacteria in the environment.
Is there anything that commonly shows up in an environment that a bird catches? I just have no idea. People have a candle. I don't know.
Teflon,
maybe that doesn't.
hands.
Teflon. I don't know.
Well, those things don't.
Bacterial.
Those things
I know
don't
that's
show
not
up.
bacterial,
Yeah.
but in other words, what? I can't think of what would cause a common bacterial.
Contaminated water is one of the most common things.
Okay. So how do
if people
they
are
avoid
on
that?
wells, they may have contamination in their well with bacteria that are not harmful to people but could be harmful to birds.
Even city waters can have that. I understand, because West Palm Beach was saying that they got some algae in the water.
Yeah, if they have broken water lines or things like that, it can happen. Or if people have filters under their sink, those things, if they don't change them, can become contaminated.
Oh, that's interesting. So in some ways, you're going to go from cleaning your water, filtering it, to maybe being neutral, to actually making it detrimental.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So what do you recommend people?
Or not washing their water bowls.
I hadn't thought of that, because I'm hoping that's not an issue, but I know. I mean, I understand that.
No, that's a common issue
That
because
makes
a lot of
sense.
birds put their food in their water, or they poop
Right.
in their water, and maybe the water bowl doesn't get washed and cleaned regularly. So think about how you want to drink your water. Do you want to drink out of a bowl that's been sitting there for a few days with maybe some poop and food in it, or do you want clean water every day?
If they have like a metal, aluminum, or stainless steel, dish, is the dishwasher plenty good?
Dishwasher's great.
Once a day kind of thing? Is that?
Yeah, if you have two water bowls, then you
rotate.
put one in the cage with fresh water, and you put the other one in the dishwasher, and just rotate them, and that's an easy way to do it.
Okay, so far this is kind of what I wanted. Like, the water seems like such a basic thing, but it is so basic that I don't usually talk about that. And so
yeah, and
that's
water
a good
bottles.
thing,
People use water bottles. I was working with one breeder out in Texas that was washing his water bottles once a week, and had a contaminated well, and he couldn't understand why his birds were dying, and it was because they were, they were drinking nasty water. And once he, corrected that, and he got enough water bottles so he could rotate them, then it was easy to keep it clean.
I tried glass water bottles for a while. My caiques very quickly learned to push the ball in and just drain.
Let it flood.
Oh my goodness. And my African greys very quickly learned, I don't know how, like we would bungee cord the whole crash.
Yeah.
So
well, they make holders for bottles that have a metal plate, and a wire thing, so.
Yeah, I feel like I tried several, but I also really like for them to be able to take that bath or dunk their head. I understand that when they dunk their bill, they clean their nares out, the holes on their nose, beak, so that they clean their nostrils, so to speak. Is that?
I'm not sure if that happens, but I think that having a bowl of water is enrichment for them because they like to play in it, and they like to dip their food in it, and they like to sometimes bathe in it. And they're deprived of that if they have a water bottle or a Lixit system.
Yeah. Okay. What is the biggest challenge people have with their parrots' health, or have we just talked about that?
I think the biggest challenge is that birds hide their illness.
Yeah,
they hide their illness, and by the time you think they're sick or you notice that they're sick, they can be really sick. And so that's another reason I like to do an annual exam, because they can have liver disease that you don't know about, they can have kidney disease, they can be anemic, all these things can happen and they hide it. And then if you wait until they're really sick and then you wait a few more days to try to get an appointment, or holidays coming up or something, or it's the weekend, then it may be too late.
Yeah.
So that's probably the biggest challenge, is really recognizing when they're sick, and you need to definitely monitor what they're eating, but also their stools, because people will tell me, well, the bird's not eating, but if it's pooping, it's eating, and maybe eating clothes.
Hello, sweetie. Are you like most Goldens? Do you like other people?
He usually will go to other people.
Oh, but
right now he says no. He's a little scared.
Yeah. Oh, because there's noise at home right now.
Yeah. We're getting a new roof today, and he's not happy about that.
Yeah. They don't like stuff like that. Okay. What is the biggest challenge people have with their parrots' behavior? And do they bring that to you or no?
The behavior that they typically bring to me is plucking.
Plucking.
I know there are a lot of problems with screaming behavior, biting behavior. I'm not really a behaviorist. I recommend checking with some of the behaviorists, and Barbara Heidenreich, Good Bird Inc. has a lot of really good information and CDs and books help people deal with behavioral problems.
Okay.
I would recommend her
site,
Good Bird Inc. site.
Okay. For plucking, I know that there are species that are prone to plucking.
Definitely, like
golden conures. Yeah, do we have a little?
Yeah, we have a little bit going on here with Phoenix. Goldens are really emotional birds, and a lot of their plucking is emotional. So he actually is on a low level of halidol now, and he's molting and he's getting it back in.
Yeah. That's
But yeah, it's super common in Goldens, and they have to be entertained. They have to have a lot of entertainment, a lot of enrichment. He gets a fern or a palm frond or something every day.
He's lucky.
Lots
he
of
has a lot
toys.
of garden around
He's,
him.
he's full-flighted and
Yeah.
eats 3 meals a day with me, and he still does some plucking. So.
And as a matter of fact, he actually gets to free fly. Or
he free
right?
flies. He's
Yeah.
full-flighted. He flies all over my house. It's a challenge sometimes.
Yeah. Okay, I know like African greys tend to pluck. I believe macaws do. Cockatoos.
Grays are one of the worst. Cockatoos are definitely bad as well, and they're very much emotional pluckers as well. What we do to diagnose plucking is we do what we call a parrot skin and feather biopsy. And so for that, we anesthetize them and we biopsy a feather in a place where they're plucking, but we also biopsy a place where they can't reach or they're not plucking. And we send them to a pathologist in Washington State, and we've done thousands of these already, and it kind of divides them into broad categories of whether they're plucking because of skin inflammation, which is most likely allergies, or if they're plucking for psychological reasons. Because obviously if you're depressed, an antihistamin's not going to help you, or if you're allergic, an antidepressant's not going to help you.
Right.
So this helps us to tailor therapy management. And plucking is not something that typically is cured, it's managed.
I think that's important to know because especially I've heard it said that in the wild, parrots don't pluck, and maybe they would have a short life if they did, but you don't see that. So you see it in captivity, and I think that sometimes people can quickly think this parrot is not being well taken care of kind of thing, but I think that that's not always true, and so it's, I think it's really important to recognize that there's different causes.
Yeah, there are
like
different causes, and unfortunately, with the general blood work, the general exam stuff, we're not going to come up with the cause of that unless they got major liver disease or something like that. So that's why we do the parrot skin and feather biopsy.
Okay.
So we can really get a diagnosis rather than just guessing.
Have you seen like every species of parrot? I love every species. There's, as if there were.
I have not seen every species of parrot because not every species of parrot is in captivity, established in captivity, but I've seen most of them.
And do they all have the potential to pluck?
They all have the potential to pluck, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, but certainly there's some species that are more prone to it than others. And environment makes a big difference. I was working with an indoor facility where the birds stayed inside all the time. They didn't get sunlight. And they had like a 40% incidence of plucking, whereas in an outdoor breeding facility where they have more space, sunlight, fresh air, wind, rain, the incidence of plucking is much lower. Typically more like 5 to 10%.
Okay, interesting. I was wondering if it was going to be 0 or close to 0, but it sounds like it's low.
It's low in those types of situations, and I know a lot of people don't approve of breeding, but they wouldn't have their birds if there were not breeders. Right. So, and I'm a breeder, and no regrets about that. But I think having them outdoors, and then they have a mate and they have a nest box and they have fresh air and sunshine and lots of stuff to look at. I think that helps to reduce, makes them happier.
I don't think people recognize, and I don't remember the statistic, but the amount of earth that is untouched by humans has reduced, like at least by half. I mean,
it's pretty small.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think
Antarctica.
I think one thing people really don't realize is that as far as parrots being in the wild, that wild is really, if people weren't breeding them, I don't, it's like I don't feel like people have an accurate
Yeah,
understanding.
the wild habitat is definitely shrinking.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't usually think of parrots as having allergies, and good, bad, right, wrong. So you brought up the allergies as a possible reason for them to pluck. What are a couple common parrot allergies? Because I'm kind of curious if it's things that we've got going on in the home. Like, for example, when I was doing research on plucking in African greys, I learned that smoking.
Yeah, smoking.
And I was like, you're kidding. You can't smoke around a parrot. So I'm
No,
kind of
smoking
curious.
is not good for parrots. And there was actually a study where they were measuring nicotine in the blood of parrots from smokers. And if you are a smoker, just don't smoke around the bird, and make sure you wash your hands, because the residual nicotine on the hands can be absorbed into their skin.
Mm-hmm. When you say don't smoke around the bird, do you mean like smoke outside of the house, or just in a different room?
That's what I would recommend, is smoke outside of the house.
So the allergens, I'm kind of curious if they're man-made, so to speak, in the sense
we don't have any way of knowing what they're allergic to.
Okay.
Because there's no way to really test that.
Okay.
Like in people and dogs and horses and cats, you can send off a blood sample and have it checked for things that the animal is sensitive to.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no company that'll do that for parrots, because there's so many species and the tests are species specific. And so the company would have to make an investment in the research that they would never recoup.
Right.
And then skin testing also doesn't work. It's been tried in parrots, but to have an area of skin that's big enough to do intradermal skin test, the only place that's really available on parrots is the middle of the chest, where there's no feathers, and the top of the chest always reacts more than the bottom of the chest. So you don't have enough skin there where you could get a uniform, reliable reaction to intradermal skin test. So we don't have a way to test them for that.
Okay. We definitely do know that you have to be really careful with any kind of aerosol or any fragrance in the air. That would count as an allergy, right? Because it'll make them sick.
Sensitivity, yeah.
Sensitivity. Okay, well, that makes sense. So I think that's, really great information. Okay, I'll do one more, so I don't want to take too much of your time.
Okay.
My mission is to help people create a blissful bond with their parrot, because I think there's nothing better. As an avian vet, what advice or what can you say that you think could help people with their pet parrots at home?
Well, just spend as much time as you can with them. One of the mistakes people make is they get a bird and they're so in love with the bird initially, and they spend a lot of time with it, and then it becomes more relegated to the cage. And I think that's one of the bigger problems is you need, when you first bring your parrot home, you need to set a routine and say, okay, Phoenix here sits with me in the morning, we have lunch, and he sits with me and cuddles in the evening, and then he goes in his cage, and so we have our routine. So a routine is important. And just remember, they are flock creatures, they are social creatures, and so they need to have interaction, they need to have that time spent with them. That's probably the most important thing.
I always say that you should have two of a species, because that way your parrot always has an immediate flock kind of thing. And my parrots have never disproven that if I spend time with the two of them, they're still curious about me, they still bond with me. And it's exactly because of that, because I don't want them alone in the cage, that kind of thing. So I love that you said that, because that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, well, I probably should get a cage mate for Phoenix, but I don't know if I could be owned by two golden conures. He's a lot of work.
Well, but it sounds like you spend a good amount of time with him, and that's nice, But they are so social, and it's interesting how some species I describe them as, this is how I describe green cheek conures, as being attached at the cheek, because it's like they're always.
Yeah, there's some species that have stronger pair bonds, and the ones that have stronger pair bonds tend to be the ones that make the best pets, because they want to bond, with the owner. And then there's other species like the ringnecks that don't have a strong pair bond, and in general, in general, a lot of people have a hard time establishing a good bond with a ringneck. I wouldn't say it's impossible because I've seen a lot of nice ringneck pets, but also there's a lot of them that, you know, they don't really want you, you know?
Yeah.
Like him, he wants this all the time.
Yeah. I'm laughing because I don't talk about my Indian ringneck too much because she's like that. And she's mean to some of the other birds. And, you know,
the females especially. The females.
And that's what I always say. And I have people who say, oh, you know, I do well with my male. I'm like, that's great. Yes, I know. The males are more
sociable with people.
Thank you. Yeah. And then I talk about golden conures as just, I talk about them as just being love. They want to love, they want to cuddle. If you want a cuddly parrot.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the help it gives people. I hope it, you know, does a couple light bulbs for people and really helps them with their bond.
And tell them if they're looking for an avian vet, go to the Association of Avian Veterinarians website, aav.org.
Perfect.
And it has lists of veterinarians in the area that at least are members.
Okay. And I also love that if people are in a position where they're worried about their birds' droppings, they can send you a sample.
They need to contact us first. Don't just put some poop in the mail, you know.
I was gonna say, I don't know how they would know, like, I don't get it. You said you're cold, like, I can see.
They would need to, you know, establish a relationship with us and, you know, so we know about the bird and then, you know, they can send samples.
And I think that's wonderful for the people. I mean, sometimes I hear people who, you know, have to drive hours and hours out of the state.
I understand that, you know, there's not a lot of us around.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for letting me meet Phoenix. He's so, you know, Bonnie's the same way. I took her to Naples. We got away for one night. Took her to Naples, took her to the hotel. Not a peep. It was fantastic. No one knew.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
He's very quiet at night.
Yeah. Well, you know, she's quiet most of the time, unless she's playing with someone. And so.
Or she wants attention.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.